All right, I am back with one more 5070 Ti VR performance comparison video, and as the title of the video says, this time we're comparing it to AMD's current flagship GPU, the Radeon RX 9070 XT. Let's start things off with one of gaming's most popular racing sims, Assetto Corsa. From the beginning of the benchmark until the end, the 5070 Ti led the 9070 XT by a fairly significant margin. Upon completing the benchmark, the 5070 Ti outperformed the 9070 XT in this game by just shy of 12 frames per second, which works out to a 14% higher average frame rate. All the testing for this video was done on a Quest 3 headset, which was connected to my Ryzen 7 9800X3D test PC wirelessly using Virtual Desktop. For most of the games in this video, I set the render resolution to Virtual Desktop's godlike graphics quality, which when using a Quest 3 uses a resolution of 3072 by 3264 per eye. The refresh rate to 120 Hz, and each game's graphics quality settings I set to their maximum or very nearly to. All these settings will be listed on screen as I display each game for your reference. For performance monitoring, I mostly used FPS VR, but there were some games where I had to use a different XR runtime other than Steam VR, so for those, I used Virtual Desktop's performance overlay instead. The 9070 XT averaged just shy of 70 FPS in No Man's Sky using these settings popping up right now, bringing it within 5 FPS of the 5070 Ti, which averaged 74.1 FPS during the course of my 5-minute benchmark run. I think most of you watching understand this, but at the same time, I feel I should mention that I do not recommend using the settings I show in this video if you want to have a good experience playing these games. Both of these GPUs are capable of delivering high fidelity visuals and smooth playable frame rates, but in order to get a good apples to apples comparison and see which GPU performs the best, which is the point of this video, we obviously have to push the settings up a bit higher. Lone Echo 2, being an Oculus exclusive, is the one game I could not run in Steam VR, so I had to use Virtual Desktop's performance overlay for this one. Since we don't have our convenient average FPS counter that FPS VR provides for us, we have to just watch the live frame rate counter and manually compare the two. Throughout my benchmark run, the frame rate on both GPUs was very close. But overall, I feel the 5070 Ti performed slightly better. There was some back and forth where the 9070 XT was faster at times, but more often than not, it was the 5070 Ti that was running the higher frame rate. That said, it wasn't by much, and as far as I could tell, both GPUs were averaging above 100 FPS in this one. Now, we've only looked at a few games so far, but Le Mans Ultimate was the first time I saw the 9070 XT come close to beating the 5070 Ti. This one was so close, in fact, it was only because FPS VR gives us an average FPS readout that I'm able to say which one ended up with the higher average FPS. But even then, it was only by 2 FPS. So when you boil it all down, that's only a 3% increase to the average frame rate, which is considered by most people to be within the margin of error. So even though the 5070 Ti was technically faster here, I'm calling this one a tie. A game the 9070 XT did not fare well in, however, was Bootstrap Island, with the 5070 Ti outperforming it by 26%, which was an average of 17 FPS over the course of my 9-minute benchmark run. Looking at the GPU frame time graph in FPS VR, you can see the 9070 XT was in the red on this one. Now, why did the 9070 XT perform so much worse in this game? I don't know for sure, but my guess would be one of two things, or maybe even a combination of both. My first guess would be driver optimization. It's a pretty well-known fact that Nvidia has better driver support than AMD, and this is even more true when it comes to VR. Based off other games we've looked at though, I feel pretty confident saying the 9070 XT has enough ponies under the hood to hold its own against the 5070 Ti, but drivers are an important piece of the puzzle and they can make or break performance. The other thing that may be affecting performance is the game engine for Bootstrap Island may be designed more so around Nvidia's architecture rather than AMD's, so the game just performs better on Nvidia hardware. I will admit there is probably other reasons that I am not familiar with that could be the cause of this, but based off my current understanding of GPUs and PC gaming, these are my top two candidates. Now, I didn't end my testing for this game here though. As you are aware, I used the Steam VR runtime for this test, but Bootstrap Island also has a VDXR beta branch that's supposed to help improve performance when using Virtual Desktop, which just so happens to be the application I'm using for all the comparisons in this video. So I felt I should at least give it a try and see how much of an improvement we get. According to things I've read online, using this beta branch can boost performance between 20 and 30%, but that's not what I ended up seeing. Comparing footage side by side of my original Steam VR runs with additional runs using VDXR and Bootstrap Island's beta branch, as far as I can tell, I was getting the exact same frame rate no matter which XR runtime I was using. And the 5070 Ti was still faster than the 9070 XT by close to 20 FPS. Moving on to Half Life Alyx, the 5070 Ti once again had the advantage on the 9070 XT, this time by an average of 10 FPS over the course of my 5-minute benchmark run. But there were moments during my test when the 5070 Ti was ahead by as much as 30 FPS. So while the 9070 XT performed well on average, performance was more consistent throughout the test with the 5070 Ti. If you've been enjoying this video or simply found the information in it useful, I'd ask you to please hit that like button, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, maybe you could consider throwing a couple bucks my way with a super thanks. All of that stuff is a huge help and enables me to continue making content like this. Thanks so much! Into the Radius 2 was another game where our Nvidia GPU beat the 9070 XT pretty handily. At the end of my benchmark run, FPS VR showed the 5070 Ti was 24 FPS faster on average. Now, could this be because of drivers? Sure, it's possible. Which means at some future date, AMD could close the gap with driver optimizations, but there's no telling if or when that may happen. At the same time, I'm just speculating that driver optimization is the difference maker here. I do not know for sure why the 9070 XT performs as poorly as it does in this game. What I do know is, as of right now, the 5070 Ti is the better performer in this title. VR Chat is the one game in this video where the average FPS counter is not accurate, so please disregard it. For every other game, I was able to get the game instance running and then start FPS VR, which gave us a perfect average FPS readout. In this one, however, if I tried to start FPS VR after beginning the benchmark, the game would lock up and crash. So the only choice I was left with was to manually monitor this one. It's pretty easy to see, however, that the 5070 Ti is our winner here. Throughout this first benchmark, it was close to 20 FPS faster than the 9070 XT. And in the second benchmark, it was pretty consistently in the neighborhood of 15 FPS faster. In both cases, that's a little more than a 50% performance uplift for the 5070 Ti. Now, I know there hasn't been a lot of positive results for Team Red in this video, but it's not all bad news. Alien Rogue Incursion was the first game where I saw our Radeon GPU outperform its competition from Team Green. Over the course of a 6-minute benchmark run, the 9070 XT averaged just shy of 106 FPS, while the 5070 Ti averaged just 96 FPS, giving the 9070 XT its first victory in my testing. Comparing gameplay footage side by side, however, we can see the CPU frame time with the 5070 Ti was a couple milliseconds higher than it was with the 9070 XT. Whether this is due to driver overhead or some other factor, I'm not sure, but assuming all our performance metrics in FPS VR are accurate, which I have no reason to believe they are not, this is what I experienced, and this is the result I got. Okay, confession time. In my last video, I feel I made a mistake by using Flight Simulator's low graphics quality settings rather than ultra when comparing the 5070 Ti to the RTX 4080. In that test, we were very much CPU limited, and both GPUs ended up performing more or less the same. This time around, however, I turned the graphics quality up to ultra to see if that would give us a winner. And to my surprise, the 9070 XT turned out to be our better performer. Granted, I'm using TAA for the anti-aliasing rather than DLSS, but hey, come on, had I used DLSS, that wouldn't exactly be a fair comparison, now would it? Like with Alien Rogue Incursion, I'm not sure what exactly is going on though, because you can see the CPU frame time with the 5070 Ti is more than double what it is with the 9070 XT, and that is of course going to affect our overall frame rate. If any of you have any explanation for this, please let me know in the comments, because I feel like this is a pretty massive hit to just be driver overhead. Who knows, maybe that is what it is. But just to make sure this wasn't some kind of weird anomaly, I ran this test multiple times with a full system restart between each run. But each time I saw the same result. Now, my test PC has both an AMD CPU and the 9070 XT is an AMD GPU. The Xbox Series X, which has a version of Flight Simulator 2020 for it, is running a custom-made AMD SoC. Not to mention the PlayStation 5 is also using AMD hardware, and Flight Simulator 2024 was released on it this past December, so perhaps Flight Simulator has been better optimized for AMD hardware to get it running on current-gen game consoles. I don't know for sure, but it is kinda looking that way. At least it does to me. Averaging out performance across all the games I tested, the 5070 Ti comes in 12% faster than the 9070 XT on average. At the time I'm making this video, brand new 5070 Ti's are selling for around $1,000 US. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. Whereas the 9070 XT can be had for around $700. So we're looking at 43% more money for a 12% increase in average performance, which, as I'm sure you've recognized, isn't exactly the most attractive value proposition. Now, of course, most of you watching this aren't going to be using your computer only for VR. You're most likely going to be playing flat games as well, and using your PC for a lot of other things. And maybe Nvidia's more mature ray tracing technology and DLSS are important features to you. So depending on your situation, that extra money may be warranted to go with Team Green. But ultimately, it's your decision to make. I'm just here to present the data and let you decide what's right for you. Come on, do it. You know you want to. Subscribe.